Please welcome Atlantic staff writer Shirley Li.
Mass school shootings have become all too familiar in American society. The forthcoming feature film, Mass, tells the story of two sets of parents, the parents of the shooter and the parents of a victim, who assemble years after such an event devastated both their families. Together, they try to heal and to understand what happened. Please take a look at this clip.
The point is that we're not here to attack you, and we promised that, but we felt everything that we've said, right? We're not going to apologize for our feelings.
Thank you for your honesty.
We want to listen, and we want to heal.
Of course.
You know, your letters meant so much to me. Even the hard ones, I really appreciate them.
Joining me now are two of the stars of Mass, Dowd and Jason Isaacs, as well as the writer and director, Fran Kranz. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me.
He's Fran, I'm Jason.
Yes.
He's not in it. Sorry.
Forget the clip you just watched, basically. Fran, I want to start with you. Prior to making Mass, you had never written and directed a film before, as you know. I was wondering, how did you land on this subject and these four characters in particular? By that I mean two sets of parents as opposed to surviving students, siblings, teachers.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd always dreamed about writing, directing. You know, as long as I can remember, it's sort of come hand in hand with acting. I thought I want to do that one day. I had plenty of ideas. I was working on another script, but look, I was driving in Los Angeles, listening to a parent on the radio the day of the Parkland shooting, and essentially I thought, what would I do? You know, what would I do if this happened to me? I was a new parent, and I thought, how do you move forward? How do you heal? Can you forgive? Can you reconcile these things? And so those were the sort of questions that became the foundation of the story and the film. And my attention and focus completely turned to that. And it was within, about just a few months that I had a first draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I know everything moved quite quickly. Anne and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, you had 3 days of rehearsals in New York before you had to...
2 days and 3 hours, I believe.
Yeah, it was 9 to 12, and then someone had to get on a plane. I forget who.
It was me.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not, rehearsals weren't really the point, because it's not a play. You don't shoot the whole thing in one, or normally you don't. It was not a giant budget film, I think it's fair to say, so we shot lots and lots of pages every day, but what we really did was get to know each other and learn to trust each other, because the film is, it might seem small and that it's a bunch of people in a room, but it scales at massive emotional peaks, and you have to really trust the people that you're doing scenes with. That's what we did over 2
So
days.
we did, though, work through the script, thank heavens. I mean, it was what we call table work, so to speak.
Yeah.
What we knew, what we understood, and parts we didn't quite understand. We talked through, and there were some shifts, very important, in addition to what Jason said, which is very true.
You mentioned parts you didn't understand. What were those parts that you can remember now that you had maybe some trouble going over?
Well, I will say the script improved by leaps and bounds, in the sense that you really need, I believe, actors are sort of the most useful part of the writing process, because getting to know their instincts. You know, great actors have great instincts, and I had essentially, these actors are as good as it gets. You know, I had 4 of the greatest actors
Good as you can afford.
As good as I could afford. And no, but truly, and I'm an actor. I love actors, and I believed asking them questions and listening to their problems will be the answer to the problem areas of the script. So a lot of it was about understanding, well, what would these people know? If they know that, why are they talking about this? And so let's shift that, let's change that. What are the questions that we believe they would really want to ask, and what are the things they would really want to know? And I think honestly, it's one thing for me to sit in a room and try and put myself in these characters' shoes. It's another to have actors who are trying to play it And if they're having trouble or bumping up against something or being lost, those are the areas you need to fix. And so it was a lot of just addressing those problematic areas.
Yeah, I know you mentioned your background as an actor. I know you've also done stage work. I saw you in Death of a Salesman way back when.
Nice, yeah, great show.
And even though Jason says this wasn't shot like a stage play, it isn't, it is a film, how did your background on stage affect the blocking and framing of this film?
Gosh, you know, I mean, really, I thought a lot about blocking, and I kind of came to this conclusion. There's this Kazan quote that I love, that he wrote a letter to the original Death of a Salesman cast, and he thought that they'd all totally lost their performance, that they'd really become sort of, you know, self-indulgent, and he wrote the actor playing Happy, men don't cry, actors do. And I thought it was just this amazing line. And I just felt, look, at the end of the day, these people have no reason to get up from this table. And that's one of the reasons I think this story has to be told on film, because we need to be present right here, and we need to feel the sort of public moments, so to speak, and the private moments between characters, the internal moments, and you can really only, I think, do that, you know, through the camera lens.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we got to show a clip today, because I think in the clip you can see how much this film relies on your performances. And I want to start with you. Your character, Linda, is the mother of the shooter. So she carries this particular burden of guilt and also of love for, well, her son. You're no stranger to playing complex characters that an audience, you know, might not understand the perspective of at first or ever, given your work on The Leftovers and The Handmaid's Tale. So I'm wondering, how hard was it to tap into that guilt and to sympathize with Linda and her love?
Well, I might say it's grief, and guilt is a different form of grief, in my opinion, but at any rate, the thing about working on Mass was that you do your homework at home, which is to say you read the text and you read it again and again, and then you sit quietly. That's my take on it. And I thought about my children. Of course, now I won't be able to speak, but it was very difficult to imagine the loss of any of my children ever, and not to mention the loss of another's child due to what mine had done. So, given the writing and the people I was with, I really relied on Linda to trust me with the power of that and the depth of those feelings, and she was tremendously generous. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
So I was helped along the way. And as we continued, it was clear if we just dropped the armor and trusted each other, we would find our way, which I believe is what happened. Does that make sense?
No. But it does to you. That's an
See what I'm saying? Imagine this, you know, every day.
And I absolutely know what you're saying.
Thank you. I think Fran does too.
Yes,
He's
yes.
from England. You know what I'm saying?
It's a
It's
different
really
culture.
tricky.
Jason, we should make you sit alone.
Sure.
Well, Jason, similar question. You're on the other side of this table. You play Jay, the father of a victim. And Jay goes into this meeting thinking that he's pretty much healed, right? He thinks that he is there to support his wife, played by the fantastic Martha Plimpton. And he ends up revealing more than, at least to me, he thinks he will reveal. And I wondered for you, what was your North Star in figuring out how to calibrate how much to express of your character from scene to scene?
Well, for me, the film's not about the thing that happened 7 years ago. So I know you mentioned at the beginning at school shootings. It's not really about anything that happened. It's a long time ago. These people are completely crippled and paralyzed by blame and guilt and shame, and you know, we're talking from Washington, which is the world capital of blame, or it was for the last 4 years at least. And so I went in there as a man who thinks he's sorted out, and the brilliance of Fran's writing is not the things that they say and do. And the reason he was right to put the camera on our faces, it's all the things they're not saying. It's all the things they're thinking and they promise each other they're not going to say. For myself and Martha playing my wife, all the things that our therapists have worked out with us that we've come here to say. It's meant to be organized and structured, and it devolves into a human mess. So what is he there for? You're absolutely right. He's there because he thinks he needs to help his wife, because he's channeled all of his rage into something political, which the film doesn't deal with at all. It's not what they're there for. And then all our best plans get derailed. So the rehearsal period we referred to, and every rehearsal period, every single night in between shooting, for me and for Martha, was about discussing what our life had been over that 7 years, how it had deteriorated, how we didn't see each other, the arguments we have. And I found it, the writing is what makes it easy to do. Obviously, of course, the writing is great, but what Fran did was show us the tip of the iceberg, and what we did was fill up the 99% of the iceberg that he had imagined but not written. And that was easy to do with the other actors. It's easy to do when the tip seems so real. So if the question is how do you, our job is to imagine being other people in other situations. It's made easy when the writing is so good and where the iceberg is, literally the geography of it, is apparent if you're human and you open yourselves to your human instincts.
Right. I'm really struck by your comment, which I think you have made before, that this movie is about finding a way to talk to other people, not so much about a mass school shooting.
It's nothing to do with the shooting. It could have been
I
any
would
traumatic
push back
event.
on that very definitely.
I'd love to hear.
Okay, so I was we come there to heal, myself and my wife, and the other couple have agreed to come and try and help us heal. It's a film which 4 people enter a room and they leave changed. How much they change, what change that change will be, is up for debate, and it's for the viewers to discover. But it's a huge emotional journey they go on, and it's not really about the past. That's why we don't have flashbacks.
Was that your interpretation of the film from the very beginning when you first read the script, or did that change over time?
No, it was there. It was apparent. Why did the South Africans have the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? It's not for blame or guilt. It's to allow people to move on. This is about, for anyone who's thinking about watching the film, it's about how you shed that stuff that's holding you back, particularly if it's, holding hate in your heart poisons you and not the person you're hating. And for me, that's what it was about.
Anne and Fran, I would be curious to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with Jason's assessment?
Go first.
Okay. Well, I'm happy you brought up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a book that was a huge inspiration for me as a young man. I read it in college first, and again came back to it thinking about this film and story. Desmond Tutu's No Future Without Forgiveness, and he says reconciliation, forgiveness, reparation these are not the normal currency of political discourse. I might have paraphrased that, but it's just this incredible thought. And essentially, what he was saying is these are things that really exist in a more spiritual realm and on a personal level, and that's what the movie's about. The movie's trying to find. When I did my research, what compelled me, what interested me, what got me emotional and empathetic were the personal stories. It had nothing to do with the contentious issues. And I think that's reflected in the film and what it focuses on, these relationships and how do you heal, how do you move forward, how do you forgive, what are the best ways to reconcile. So for me, no, I think it's about, I totally agree with Jason in the sense that it's about repairing broken relationships, which I think I might not have seen this at the time. I think I was sort of busy just kind of crying in front of a laptop and immersed in this world. But it feels so desperately urgent now because we've sort of normalized hating people we don't even know, And I think that's the real sort of what I want people to go see the film for and take away from it is this notion of healing and how, look, we all have to live together. We're essentially living under one roof now, and I sometimes worry we don't recognize that. And we have to realize that we need to find common goals based around our shared anxieties and fears and realizing our common humanity much more than our differences. And I think that's kind of the spiritual journey and real plot of the film.
Yeah. And
I would say, well, these two have spoken eloquently, and I certainly see the point. I'm just speaking of it from Linda's perspective, which is to say, it wasn't as if my boy drank too much and had a car accident, or wasn't watching and allowed his friend to drown. It was intentional, and he took his own life So I'm being literal-minded here. I do
Sure,
understand.
no. But do you not think Linda's changed at all by the end of the film? Something's different when she leaves the room from when she entered.
I didn't say that, dearest.
Right.
Why did you say that?
I was curious what you
But they come with different needs, so to speak. And the journey to that place of understanding one another. I mean, we've had those experiences in our lives, haven't we? And suddenly we have nothing, there is no hate, no rage, nothing. It's all fallen away because we've actually listened and understood. So I just meant that I think that is a horror movie, not movie, forgive me. Those images that, the facts of what happened live in her. And of course she's, if you lose a child, and if your child is responsible for the death of many others, that's a kind of breaking of one's life. I don't know how you come back from it, and I don't think Linda, perhaps Fran would know better, had any expectation of healing. Do you know what I mean? Or her life going back to a place of everything has changed. And so she comes with the ability to maybe offer, because she has no expectation in coming, except...
But I think one of the great joys or geniuses of Fran's messy human cauldron that he creates is that people arrive with certain expectations and they're all subverted. No one gets out of it and leaves the way that they thought. The afternoon doesn't go the way they'd planned for it to go.
Yeah, this is, I mean, to Anne's point, I think this is a very specific trauma and tragedy that's also resonant, like you were saying, Fran. So I am really curious about your interpretation of Linda, because you did get inside Linda, you know, the way you're speaking about your character now. You had to shoot her final monologue. This isn't really a spoiler, I hope.
Oh, it is.
Well,
I feel it is.
I won't
Even saying that there is a final monologue,
I won't go into it,
maybe
Jason.
it is.
Just, I'm going to say, behind the scenes, you had to shoot that first, right? What was it like going into that character sort of backwards?
I never thought of it as backwards, personally, because,
How many films film in order, anyway?
well, that's true. But also, I'm
This
going
one's
to
so-
sound like, you know, I might need to get some help when I say this, but it dawned on me when I was, a long time ago, I was doing a movie about Huey Long, and we shot his death first. And I was very new to it, and I thought, how in the world is this happening? And then I had one of those moments of, well, that's the situation, accept it. And then something happened. It was metaphysical. You'll have to help me with this. Which is to say, it didn't matter the time at all. I knew her life. And so I was going to visit this part of her life now, and whatever order it happens is not the relevant point.
Right.
That's how it felt. It felt natural and real and scary, but
The reason film is a director's medium is you make the moment real as an actor, and you trust the director to arrange them in any order they want and put them in any... The film might have started with that moment that we shot to be an ending. You never know. So you just try and make the moment real for yourself.
Yeah.
And then it's up to Fran.
Oh, I didn't imagine him putting that in the beginning. I'll just
You never
put it
know.
there.
You never know.
We
Strange
wanted,
things have happened.
yeah, we felt we had to. It's a you never shoot things in order, chronological order. You know, rarely. It's a luxury. But we felt the conversation had to be shot chronologically, and so that forced. It was only a 14-day shoot. It forced the handful of scenes that don't take place in the room to be stacked at the top, just based on schedules. And yeah, so there are key moments that had to be shot before the longer conversation. I mean, I don't want to. I feel I can't speak for you, and I at this point I really don't know how to speak for the character. But I always thought there's an element to the film that is asking us to comprehend the incomprehensible. And I think this is a message that Linda, the character of Linda, that she's sort of asked of the other characters in the audience. And I kept thinking about the story of St. Francis and the leper, and this thing that he fears, this thing that he abhors, he forces himself to embrace. You know, and I think there's this notion of that. I believe that there is forgiveness, but real reconciliation, real human connection can exist without that. That it almost becomes unnecessary, forgiveness, if we can truly connect and see a shared suffering in all, you know, all of us. And I think there's this other message that that is expressed by her character. And I see her journey as trying to reclaim her identity as a mother, because she has to love her son despite what he did. And I think in expressing those things is part of that journey towards reclaiming that identity.
Expressing what things, sweetheart?
Expressing this notion. Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like we're spoiling.
Yeah, don't talk about what happens. People should go and see it. In fact, can I just say this? You know, we've all got used to the last year and a half to watching a lot of things at home, and this film is not coming out on streaming, it's coming out in the cinemas, and if those people who are watching have been sent a link, maybe they've watched it, maybe they haven't. If you haven't watched it, it's a film about human connection, about how to make human connection, and that happens in big dark rooms when the lights go down and a big screen lights up. It has nothing to do with the sound quality or the picture. There's something magic that happens when we're told stories en masse, pardon the pun in there, and I hope people do go and see this in the cinema, because films like this, big emotional experiences like this, make you feel less alone, and we all feel quite alone at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, we have to wrap up shortly, so I just have one more question for all of you, which is going back to my first question to you about taking on the perspectives of parents in this situation. What do you think these perspectives have enlightened you to as parents? And also, what do you hope viewers take away when they eventually watch it, or if they've already watched it?
Want me to go? You want to
Yeah,
go?
you go.
I'll
go
go.
ahead.
Fine.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of time at home building up a lot of hate and blame. This is a time of enormous division in the world, whether it's politics, whether it's vaccines, whether it's all kinds of things, and in the home. I don't know who else has had a lovely ride being trapped in a house, but and this is about in some ways, there's no simple message to take away. It wouldn't need a fabulous 2-hour movie if it could be a fridge magnet, but it's about human connection and seeing other people as human and not building yourself a trench and staying in it. And I hope that people get from that the need for connection, the need to listen, the need to be flexible, and the need to shed their own baggage.
Anne?
I would say, sorry, Jen, I like what Jason said, and just that at the end of the day, we all know what suffering is. And if we can listen and stop the rage in our own minds, or stop the voice in our own heads, there is always a way to move forward and connect. I know we're probably out of time, but this comes up, sorry. When my husband broke up with me before we got married, I was destroyed, and I went in to wait on tables, and the busboy's lover had just broken up with him, and we were both destroyed. I never felt closer to another human in my life. Mm-hmm. We looked at each other, we understood. We didn't say 2 words, and we held on to each other. And that got me through. I just thought, don't ever forget that this is what connection is. Understanding. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Fran?
Yeah, I still feel bad for talking about her character, but I like it when they talk about their characters and own their characters. No, I truly, look, I read about stories like this, and I thought this is the most extraordinary thing. And now I kind of come at it thinking, it should not be extraordinary for human beings to sit at a table who have a disagreement and work through that and find a connection and find common ground. That should not be extraordinary. And I hope this movie promotes that way of thinking and that message. I want people to see it.
Absolutely. I do hope people who are watching do see it. And with that, on that note, thank you all for being here today.
So lovely.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for watching, and Mass will be in theaters on October 8th.